Hey Mark, it's Mike. So I got this little guy apart, and quite the mess of wiring in here. They had all balled up in a nice tight ball to keep it clear of everything. All this stuff, the resistors and capacitors on the motor were all squeezed in really tight, so I wouldn't be surprised. But the problem we were having yesterday with no motion of the drivetrain was probably some kind of a short. All of this junk goes back to these two plugs. One's underneath this seat here, and the other one I took the cover off just so I could get out of these. The orange and the brown wire are the ones that go to the motor. I just put some alligator clips on it here. So I got this nifty little bench power supply over here, and you'll see that it's set at 2.1 volts, which I happen to know from a little bit of screwing around I've been doing here. Actually is the voltage required to get this little gal moving. And you'll see here she's moving just fine, and the motor's working good, and it works great in both directions. And I'm not going to speed it up a whole bunch just because I always worry about the thing coming off the box. One of these days I got to get my roller stand built, but in the meantime, so here's 2.35, and I'm just going to speed it up to about 6 volts so you can kind of see. The noise, by the way, it's not the locomotive. It's sitting on two hollow boxes, and I put all that foam on there to get rid of some noise because it was really noisy. I'll lift it up here in a second. You'll see that it's extremely quiet. You can't even hear the thing when it's up off the boxes. So this is all really good. I'm going to do a little research on all this wiring on here. And it cuts out about I want to say about 1.7 volts is the low voltage. That's normal. There's usually a little bit of startup voltage required to get over the gearing and inertia, but it like there, it's still turning around at 1.5, 1.4, 1.3. Yeah, that's where it stopped right there, 1.3. And it's still drawing current because of course it's not moving. So good news. I also checked the LEDs on the tender and in the locomotive. Sorry, that's probably a little bright, but there's 2 leads there in the boiler, and the LEDs are just fine. So this is all good news. I'm gonna check with a couple guys, probably the professor and maybe Dr. Jeff, just to see. I want to confirm. My suspicions are all this garbage is for RF interference, so it doesn't interfere with the TV and all that kind of stuff. But most of that's irrelevant now anyway, because we don't use the airways much for transmission. So if it's not really doing any good, it'd be good to get it out of here, because it's just more crap to burn out over time, especially these little yellow capacitors. They can just give up, and they're not the most reliable thing in the world. So if we can get them out of there, you don't want to be screwing around with the thing in 20 years. I haven't got to the decoder yet, but I will tomorrow, and that's another reason I want to check all this junk out, because if that decoder works, then I can get rid of all this garbage in here and simplify it, because it all creates heat, and heat's your worst enemy in these little things. Anyway, some good news for a change. Still a ways to go here, but we'll get sorted through it. I'm just so happy the motor is a-okay, and I had it out and was looking at it, and it looks fine. There's a lot of grease in there, but it could have come from the factory like that, and it's not harming anything, so probably just leave it the way it is. But it's runs nice. Talk soon.